Good evening, everybody. Urab Desai here with the tropical update for Saturday, September 22nd, 2018. The tropics do continue to fire back up over the past couple of days as we usher in the first official day of fall, which is today, the autumnal equinox. And we do have two invests to talk about. Invest 90L here in the Central Atlantic and Invest 98L south of Bermuda. And we also have this new tropical depression 11 just east of the Lesser Antilles. And we also have newly formed Tropical Storm Kirk to talk about. Now, taking a look at the National Hurricane Center site, you can see that for Invest 90L, the most recently designated invest, when they name the areas of investigation, they start with 90 and continue through 99, and then once it gets to 99, it resets and it starts back up at 90. So the last invest was Invest 99L, which is the one that did become Tropical Storm Kirk. And so now we're back to 90L in the Central Atlantic, a 60% chance of formation in the next 2 days, and a 70% chance of formation in the next 5 days. So it is a high chance that it will develop soon. However, it is no threat to land at all. And if you do look at the satellite image right now, it does seem to be slowly starting to get its act together. There are some thunderstorms firing up near the center of circulation, which is right around here. However, it's still quite disorganized, so it will take a couple of days still probably to develop into a subtropical or a tropical depression / storm. And if you do look at the forecast tracks, you can see that the models are very confused with this. They're quite bamboozled, if I may say so myself. As you can see, the tracks are just all over the place. It's just going to be forecast to meandering throughout the Central Atlantic. And like I said, it's going to be no threat to land, which is very good news for everyone. Now, taking a look at Invest 98L, it is definitely looking a lot better than it did yesterday. As yesterday it was just completely devoid of any thunderstorm activity. It was just a naked center of circulation. And today we do have some thunderstorms firing up close to the center, which is about right around here. As you can see at the last couple of frames, there's this one thunderstorm that just popped up over the center. And that's why the National Hurricane Center does have it now 40% chance, medium chance of development over the next 5 days. And if we go back to the satellite image, you can see that it's starting to try to get its act together. And if you look at the wind shear map, it is right now in favorable conditions. Actually, the wind shear is about 10 to 15 knots, which is moderate shear. So it's not going to be able to get its act together quickly. However, considering that it is going to stay in this area for at least another day, it could develop. And then if we look at the forecast tracks, it is forecast. The models have shifted east, actually, over the past since yesterday. Yesterday, a lot of models had impacting land, making landfall in North Carolina. However, this time, a lot of models do have it offshore. Only 3 models now have it impacting land, which is definitely good news, as these are the areas hit hard by Hurricane Florence, and they definitely do not need any additional rainfall. So definitely good if this thing does manage to stay well offshore. If you look at the intensity forecast now, most of the models do have it strengthening into a tropical storm. So it is looking more likely now that it will be able to develop into a tropical storm. However, it will have to happen soon, as going back to the wind shear map, it is going to be heading into an area with higher shear soon. So if it does not develop in the next, let's say, 48 hours to 72 hours, then it probably will not become a named storm. But regardless of whether it becomes named or not, if it does impact land, it's going to be giving some heavy rain and some more flooding to areas that do not need any more rain. So this, though, does need to be watched closely by residents in the area of North Carolina. Now, if you take a look at Tropical Depression 11, this storm definitely surprised me. I did not expect this storm to develop at all. As yesterday morning, it was only a 20% chance of development, I believe, and now it's a depression. But despite being a depression now, it's not going to last long, and it's not going to impact land, so there's no need for anyone to worry about it. And looking at the satellite image here, you can see that there are some thunderstorms. You can see the center right here, and some thunderstorms are firing up now, but as you can see, they're being sheared apart to the right as all the clouds and thunderstorms are heading in the east direction, and this is definitely not looking to get any further organized. And if we look at the wind shear, right now TD11 is in an area with about 40 knots of wind shear, excuse me, and 40 knots of wind shear is definitely going to rip this storm apart. And if we look at the official NHC forecast, it does have a TD11 dissipating as soon as tonight, and at the latest, at least by tomorrow. So this will not be any threat to land. It will not be any threat to anyone, which is again good news for everyone. If you look at the tracks, it is forecast to be heading towards the Leeward Islands, but it will be a remnant low at that point. There might be some thunderstorms and some rain involved still, though, with the system. So these areas might still get some localized heavy rain from that. If you look at the intensity models, only 2 models have it approaching tropical storm strength, and those models are outliers, so it's not looking likely that it's going to strengthen at all. And finally, looking at new Tropical Storm Kirk, I was not expecting this storm to develop as quick as it did, as it's still only at a very low latitude. It's at 8.6 degrees north. It's very low for tropical storm formation, as most tropical storms will form at least above 10 degrees north. But this storm has definitely surprised us, and especially with how south and east it formed. But if you look at the satellite here, it's not organized at all at the moment. There are some thunderstorms here. However, it's very hard to tell where the center of circulation is. I can't even tell where it is. And usually I'm able to point this out, but if I had to guess, it's probably right around here. I think I saw a little bit of rotation there in the last couple of frames. But as you can see, the thunderstorms are away from the center, and it's not organized at all at the moment, so that's why it's a very weak tropical storm. If you look at the forecast, there's forecast to remain a tropical storm throughout the next 5 days, though, as it slowly starts to creep a little bit further north. We'll be approaching the Lesser Antilles in 5 days. The official intensity forecast from the National Hurricane Center has it peaking at a 60-mile-an-hour storm around here around Monday to Tuesday. Then it has it weakening again as it approaches this area of a high wind shear, as I said, where TD11 is right now, wind shear of 30 to 40 knots. Because if we look right now, Kirk is off the map right now because the wind shear map does not extend that far east, but you can see that the area that Kirk will be heading into is favorable wind shear of 10 to 15 knots. But then the wind shear will increase as it heads closer and closer to the Lesser Antilles. So by then it will probably start weakening, and it might even get sheared apart and become a remnant low by the time it does approach the islands. Now, if you look at the model tracks guidance here, you can see that the majority of models do have it right next to the Leeward Islands in 5 days' time. And as you can see, some of the models here actually do have it turning north before it reaches the Leeward Islands. So basically, there's 2 possible scenarios that are likely to happen with Kirk. Either it stays weaker as it approaches the Leeward Islands and then gets sheared apart in here in the Western Caribbean Sea and becomes a remnant low, or it strengthens further. It gains some strength early on, and then it will start to feel the polar effects, and it will start creeping up north. As most strong storms, if there's not a ridge in place, they will start to gravitate poleward towards the north. So if it becomes stronger, it's going to curve out north and will not be any threat to land, most likely. If you do look at the intensity models, you can see that the majority of all the models do have it strengthening over the next few days. However, you can see that some of them do have a weakening once it gets to day 4 to day 5 as it does approach that shear area. And if we take a look at compare these models, the intensity models to the track models, if you look at the EGRI, for example, the EGRI has it becoming a Category 1 hurricane in 5 days' time, 4 to 5 days' time. And then if you look at the track here for the EGRI, it has it turning very north very early and then going out to sea. So either way, it does not look like any U.S. impacts will be coming from this storm. Maybe some high surf, in advance. But besides that, besides high surf and rip currents, I don't think there will be any threat, any direct impacts from Tropical Storm Kirk, which is good news. Now, taking a look at the GFS model and the European, we'll look at it after we look at the GFS. This is the 18Z GFS, and you can see this is 98L here, 90L right here in the Central Atlantic, and Tropical Storm Kirk. And if you put it in motion, it does not have 98L developing. It does have 90L developing, though. If this got a name, it will be developing into Leslie. And if you put it further into motion, you can see that it keeps Kirk weak. And then it does have Leslie strengthening, however, it just meanders here in the open Atlantic, no threat to land. And then it does have Kirk approaching the islands here, but it's basically a weak tropical depression or even a remnant low by this point. It does not have any further development of any new storms after that, at least in 5-day time. We could check further than 5 days out, but it's not really reliable at that point since the models are not that accurate further than 5 days out. If you look at the European model now, the next 5 days, the European model is very similar as it has Leslie forming here in the Central Atlantic, and it keeps Kirk weak through day 5, and by day 5, it's basically a remnant low or very weak tropical depression as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. And taking a look at the MJO now, one last thing. Over the next 2 weeks, it's still forecast to remain active in the Western Hemisphere in Africa. So the Atlantic Basin probably will remain active through the next 2 weeks as we head into the beginning of October. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.